This episode was made possible by Fantasy Final Fantasy. It's kind of like fantasy football, only instead of choosing football players to live vicariously through and gamble on, you can choose gamers who are already playing any one of the 600 games from the Final Fantasy franchise to watch and gamble on. This exciting new gaming game is just fantastic, says the Final Fantasy Fanatics Fan Club of Florida. You heard it here first, friends. Start your free trial of this fantasy within a fantasy within a... Oh God, you get it. Yeah, so start your free trial before the developers inevitably go on trial themselves for copyright infringement and... Ooh, hold on. Yep, according to this here on their MySpace, they are now defunct. Well, sorry to waste your time with that one. Now, before we begin, I also wanted to tell you about an awesome new podcast. It's called This American Mime, a podcast by mimes for mimes. I have a clip of one of their lively, if not heated, debates that the creator said I could share from one of their recent live shows, recorded live, obviously, at the Downtown Convention Center this past weekend, and I'm told this was the largest attended event in the history of the podcast, with over 3,000 mimes in attendance. Take a listen. Wow, you can really feel the electric excitement in the room. What a beautiful and fiery dialogue between two true legends of the mime industry. And what an amazing thing for people of common mind to have their voices heard. Maybe the good old US of A still has a bright future ahead. Exciting stuff. Lots of interesting points to chew on from that clip alone. So be sure to check it out. Again, that's This American Mime, a podcast for mimes by mimes. And finally, Lord, I'd like to take just a sec, that's short for a second, to thank you all for listening to and reviewing the show. My show, Several Stories High. I just wanted to share a few with you right now, then we'll start the freaking story, I promise. And listen up, because some of these reviews of Several Stories High are actually real. Entertaining and intriguing, says Bubba Ganoush, whoever that is. R. Swanson says, this internet radio program exists. Perhaps I've said too much. Puns and entertaining storytelling, says Swindelli. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out once things settle down a bit, LOL. From, and it just says the world. Okay. MOY 10678 says the show ages like a fine wine. And of Several Stories High, C. Marin says, thought this was a podcast that teaches people how to read while high. It's not. Okay. And finally, the last review I'll share with you comes from the Foundation for Wholesome Speech in partnership with the Expand Your Vocabulary Academy, who simply had one word to sum up their feelings about Several Stories High, which was this. Welcome to Several Stories High, an eclectic, electric anthology of fiction, fact, and everything in between. I'm your host, Nathaniel David Knox. Shall we begin? Have you ever held up your entire hometown by accident? Because I have. Pull up an earbud. I'll tell you all about it. Whew. Okay, let's do this. I've had over 2 glasses of seltzer water, so I'm feeling pretty freaking brave right now. Look, I haven't told very many true stories on this show yet, for a few reasons. Fear being the main one. Fear of boring you, fear of looking or sounding dumb, fear of not having the right, words or whatever. But what's art without a little bit of fear? A bit of vulnerability, a bit of risk, a bit of yourself to put on display regardless of whether or not anyone cares or relates or sympathizes, right? Anyway, the story I'm about to tell you really happened to me. Not that it's going to be turned into some summer blockbuster or something, I'm just telling you the setup, so whatever, right? I only specify that this story is 100% true because, as any of you longtime listeners are aware, this show is all over the place. Sometimes you'll hear me narrate fiction. Other times you may hear a story in between the real and fantastical. Or something from the public domain. And sometimes it's a totally true story, like this one. But what I wouldn't give for 5 minutes in a blockbuster one last time, though. Anyway, let's begin. They say the devil's in the deep. God, this chair. Hold on. Boy, this chair is really uncomfortable. Kind of blows, but whatever. Sorry. They say the devil's in the details, and that you have to give him his due because, after all, he's the one you know, right? Some say you have to dance with him, or he very well may cry. It's been said that he makes one hell of a food cake. Great eggs, too. But that's not all he's good at making, in the playground of 2 idle hands and a vacant mind. Yes, he's crafted many things in his day, tossing misery and calamity out to the masses like candy at a town parade. The devil's also forged monstrosities of language from the fiery foundries of his nightmarish hellscapes, too. And chiefest among his vile semantic concoctions are 5 words. Yes, 5 chilling, heart-stopping words from his bloody pen. Words in the form of a question. A cruel, evil, albeit simple question. One I wouldn't foist upon my worst enemy. You know, I'm hesitant to even say it, if I'm honest. The last thing I want to do is anger or frighten you, friend and fellow listener on the other side of the headphones or speakers or what have you. But like I said before, I don't believe art should be a safe place for us. At least not always. It should challenge us as well as comfort, and terrify as well as entertain, no? This world has just as many shadows as it does sunbeams, it would seem. Okay, I've delayed this long enough. What are the 5 words? The 5 words that I pray you never have to hear. The 5 despicable words no human being should ever have to endure. They are these. Can you help me move? You wanted dark and gritty content, right, Internet? Well, there you have it. Don't say I didn't warn you. You've been warned. Okay, now don't say I didn't warn you. No one is ever truly safe from those 5 words. No one. And just when you think you've helped your brother or sister or mother's daughter pack their things for the final time, somehow this satanic phenomenon manages to rear its ugly head. But if I can be completely candid with you now, I really thought I was through with all that for good back in 2015. How dumb I was to think that I was done helping people move. Maybe I was done with it, but it surely wasn't done with me. God, this seat. It all started one morning, as every other day in history, I think. Don't remember if it was a Monday, but if it wasn't, it should have been. The way it seemed to just, I don't know, what's the word? Suck? Before I could even pour myself a cup of coffee, a magical potion to ward off the work week, I was informed that I would be heading up the exciting task of helping some people I didn't really know move into their new apartment. And not just some apartment down the street, mind you, an apartment down the state. Like an hour and a half or something away. I know, all of this before coffee. Wow, I thought to myself. Sometimes it seems like the heavens shine upon me more than most. This is a blessing I shall not squander, lest I take it for granted. After wiping away the tears in the bathroom for probably an irresponsible amount of time, I begged the people in charge for someone to ride along with me at least, to help me help these people. Perhaps a close friend could accompany me? I asked. Sucky work isn't so bad if your friend's along for the ride, right? Maybe my luck was about to change for the better. So the next thing I know, I'm driving the moving truck by myself. Yep, my request for additional assistance was denied for reasons I still can't understand to this day. I was told that the people I was helping would meet me at the apartment and we'd be done before we knew it. This turned out to be a lie because as soon as I knew I'd be heading up this one-man moving task, we weren't even close to done, and I knew it. Anyways, I was on the road, a full load of some other people's personal belongings in the very truck that I was driving. It's at this point that I'm going to jump ahead a bit. Not because all the glorious details of the move wouldn't prove life-changing to you, but this story really doesn't have anything to do with the people I helped move, or the vast amount of personal belongings they had with them. I want to focus on the drive back. So yes, I drove their stuff west. Way west, like an hour and a half from where I live west. Funny, I'm reminded of that Christmas song. Is it God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen or We Three Kings that goes like, Westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Whatever. Must be because the holidays are close. Brace yourself, for the nostalgia is coming and it takes no prisoners. But moving on, literally. So after the truck was unloaded and those nice people had all their personal accounted for, I started my journey back home. And let's just say I was in a very bad mood by that point. Say it. Come on. All together now. I was in a very bad mood by that point. Thank you. That wasn't so bad, was it? I made my way through busy city freeways and tight back alley side streets by the skin of my teeth in that big, crappy truck. It also didn't help matters that I hadn't eaten all day, and yet somehow I still had to use the facilities. Don't worry, just number one. If you don't know, number one is code for urine, as in you're in trouble if you're stuck in traffic and you gotta go. But I assure you, the story does not contain any further reference to any such human function, so whatever. Hold on. Let me adjust this seat. This seat is like the worst. I continued down the interstate, with the sage, subtle GPS route guiding my path back. This gave me a little comfort, something I was in great need of at the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a freaking weirdo, but I don't like doing things I don't want to do. And I also don't like it when things don't go my way. Like, ever. But like I said, the worst of it was behind me. Or so I thought at the time. No, I thought to myself. The GPS will guide me back, and I'll be home by dinner. Dinner. Just put on some music and enjoy the ride back. The truck didn't have a CD player. And if you're unaware of what a CD player is, Think of it as Spotify in a little circle, only way shorter and way worse. But there was still some hope for me after all. I turned on the radio, and what did I hear? Christmas music. Had I really forgotten that it was the holiday season? Either way, the second those old, familiar Yuletide melodies crackled out of those crappy speakers, I sighed, a big sigh of relief. Like after you plug in your dying phone, but bigger. Now would be the time to add some original, sentimental, holiday-ish music to help demonstrate the simple peace and joy I felt in that truck. Seriously? I said, now would be the perfect time to add some original, sentimental, holiday-ish music to help demonstrate the simple peace and joy I felt in that truck. Thank you. Thank you. The cool December air caressed my face as the foreign country roads quickly turned into old friends. How odd, I thought. Did the GPS take me this way on the way to the apartment? I couldn't remember, but at that point it didn't matter, because before I knew it, I was driving through a place I'd tucked away deep within the doldrums of my mind for so long. My hometown. Well, not technically my hometown, but the one I grew up in since I was like 3 or something, so close enough. There are few things I am more of a sucker for than nostalgia. That fond, ever-present part of yourself that lived and loved and laughed all that time ago. With people and places long gone, but whose reflections and shadows will never leave the fold. The stuff that can bring tears to your eyes at the drop of a hat. And sure, nostalgia can be used as a crutch, yeah. But sometimes you need a crutch when you're hurting. And I was hurting. Hurting for some alleviation after all this crazy, first thing in the morning, one-man moving day nonsense. Hurting for just a little bit of familiarity after an unfamiliar day on the road in a big, crappy truck. I was hurting for a little bit of home. I also really had to pee still. It was when I pulled up to a particular stop sign at the intersection of the town's main street, its main artery of life, that I had the thought, with the past, present, and future magic of the holidays wafting on the cool air and the airwaves of merry melodies to match, that I realized something. I was literally driving down memory lane. There were at least 2 or 3 families who had lived in the houses near that intersection alone. People, no doubt, who have long since moved on. It was somehow sad and sweet to see their shadows for but a blink more. I pulled onto memory lane, rumbling past the little corner house, the one with the red door to match the red traffic light that just awoke. I admired that house as I waited in that stopped line of cars and trucks. It was a neat little abode. Looked like a cool little castle. Thinking back, it almost felt like, at least in retrospect, my weary soul wished it could live there, safe and sound, just for a minute, in the warm confines of yesteryear, when everything would be alright, because it just had to be alright, right? It's only in that kind of peace and tranquility that certain questions pop into your head. Like, why was I so deathly afraid of inconvenience? Why do I crumble at the first sign of discomfort and... It's a freaking chair. Right. Okay. So I was at the red light, and I remember thinking, or wondering, rather, why do I crumble at the first sign of discomfort? At the mere whiff of inconvenience or unpleasantness? Why? Why can't I just take life as it comes like so many others seem to be able to with such ease? I don't like when things go wrong. I don't like doing things I don't want to do. And I especially don't like when things go wrong as I'm doing things I don't want to do. Hence the day I just had thus far. But there's nothing like sitting at a red light in the town you grew up in, with the promises of nostalgia singing you through the timeless Christmas classics to really set your soul at ease. It sure did for mine. I remember thinking to myself that it didn't really matter how much longer this red light would take, because everything seemed to be just fine. Just took a little reminder is all. I turned my GPS off. It seemed rude to keep it on in the town I grew up in. My soul was in these streets. Yep, once that light changes, I thought to myself, it's down through that old familiar railroad underpass and a few more miles of your old stomping grounds. The ones with your memories burned into the very crackled pavement, and then you're home free, Nathan. But what was I saying? I was already home. Snapping out of my existential trance, I looked back at that cool little castle house one last time. That safe little house. The one with the red door. Just another fond snapshot of the past. I wondered if the people I knew still lived there. Were they still alive and well? Were they okay? How had they turned out? How had I turned out? But I didn't have much time to think about it any further because the light turned green, and it was back to the here and now. I pressed the gas to get up the hill due to the finicky nature of the old truck. I drove through the intersection, the green light bidding me a fond farewell before turning yellow. Just made it, I thought. I approached the underpass. Oh, but then a thought occurred to me. But it was too late, because before I could... Did I mention the truck I was driving was a big truck? Tall and hefty? A truck whose height must have been mere inches too tall to fit beneath that old bridge? Did I forget to mention that? Either way, I most certainly forgot back then, because I wasn't halfway into the abyss of the underpass when the top of the truck caught the belly of the bridge. The only thing more violent than the scraping sound was the ferocious dragging, jerking motion of the whole vehicle. The truck slammed to a halt about 2/3 of the way through the underpass. I was in shock. I shifted into reverse and gunned it backwards, and the truck moved a few inches. Could this be? A way out? A redo? No. No! The tires screeched and screeched. The smoke from the burning rubber jetted out from all directions like escaping ghosts. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I thought. Not only was I in complete shock and horror, but I knew my time was running out. It would be any second now that the light would turn green again and the cars would start to approach me from behind. Frantic, I looked all around me. What do I do? What do I do? My breathing quickened, and soon I began an expletive-laden tirade unlike any this world has ever seen. I do believe I cursed more in the span of 15 seconds than the entire dialogue of Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas. What the hell was I to do? Yes. Hell. This was hell! And the devil just got home from work! But it wasn't Satan's horns that grabbed me by the soul. No. It was the 1, the 2, 3, 7, 15, and on and on and on of the horns of the cars that had seemingly in the blink of an eye all come to a stop all around me. Yes, from behind, from the opposite lane, from the adjacent four-way stop, too. Maybe somebody could beat me in a cursing contest after all. They did, and I didn't even need to hear them to know. You could just feel it. I think it was the sheer weight of my embarrassment now that caused me to lay down in the truck. Literally, I rolled down over to the passenger side and hid in a little floor nook. It was no little castle with a red door in the corner, but what else was I to do? Better, braver, stronger people would have immediately jumped into action, but not me. At least not then. I froze down there in that little passenger side nook, My new sarcophagus. May as well hang a little novelty gravestone from the rearview mirror because this was my final resting place now. God rest me, a merry, gentle dead man. A grown adult who got a truck stuck in an underpass. A bridge too far? No. A bridge too low. Or maybe my hopes were just too high. Oh, great, I thought. They're here. They've come to take me away. Lock him up and throw away the key, they'll say. The fella's a grown man with a working brain in his head, and he still drove a truck that was too tall under a bridge and got it stuck. Who the hell gave him his adult card, they'll say. Revoked. Revoked, they'll cry. But then there came a knock at the door. Stunned, I opened it and got out. A fireman was standing there. Somehow he managed to squeeze a fire truck the length of a fire truck in behind me. A big red buffer between me and the angry motorist behind me. But how? And that's when I really saw it. What I'd done. The sheer magnitude of slight inconvenience I'd cast upon the world. Okay, picture it for a moment, won't you? Imagine you just congested the main street of the town you grew up in. A real US of A town, mind you. Imagine clogging a living, breathing city street artery. The same artery with the lifeblood of your childhood pumping through it. With sidewalk veins that ran every which way. Past the amazing pizza plates that burned down from more of Lucifer's handiwork. Only to be rebuilt better and stronger and with much more of an appropriate amount of sauce. Past the humble community theater with the double doors that had the circular glass windows. Past the little castle with the red door. Past the people you've always known but can't quite picture in your mind anymore. Past the dry cleaners you would go to with your mom once a week, only because that meant you'd be able to go to the library after. The one just past the edge of town. Just past. I always wondered if I'd do something extraordinary. If I'd be remembered. If I'd ever be the hometown hero that people would stop in the street to get a good look at. I guess I got the second half of that wish. Here I am, I thought. I even saw one guy leaning out of his car to get a better angle of my newly christened work of art so he could take a picture. No doubt to go up on the internet before he could say, Underpass. Funny. I always laughed at people who did dumb stuff like this. Ha 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 ha, what a dumbass, I would say. Or, ha 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 ha, what a dumbass, I would think. Or, ha ha ha, what a dumbass, I would text to my family and friends. But now, oh yes, now, I was the dumbass. I think I surrendered to fate then, no longer hiding but walking out from the shadow of the underpass to survey the back of the truck with what little daylight remained. I don't remember exactly what that fireman said to me, but none of his words seemed to be the least bit angry or alarmed. Then a police cruiser pulled up. Great, I must have thought. It's off to jail for the hometown zero, and you call yourself a grown-up. But I was wrong again. 2 policewomen got out of the car. One started directing traffic, and the other helped me assess the situation with the fireman, like it was all in a day's work. Turns out it was. The policewoman told me that somebody managed to get their truck stuck beneath this bridge and others like it in town at least once a week. Wow. All those trips with Mom back in the mid to late 90s, not once did I ever see a truck stuck under that bridge. A bridge we'd go under more times than I could remember. But if I were to have seen such a sight as a youngster, I hope that I would have had the maturity to say, "Hey mister, it's no big deal," instead of, "Hey Mom, check out the dumbass who just got a truck stuck under the bridge," and then proceeding to get in trouble for such filthy talk, and then asking what Seinfeld was and stuff, but I digress. Soon night fell, and after a quick phone call, the truck was yanked out of the bridge by the keister thanks to the power of a tow truck. And after many thank yous and apologies to the officers and firemen and symbolically the whole town of my childhood, I was off down the road again with an alternate route on my GPS and downright relief in my soul.
East on.
It said a few miles later, and I nearly turned on account of how tired and miserable and angry and ashamed I was. I don't know the Christmas song that was playing then, but if I could recreate the moment, it would have been the one that I talked about before, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. And it would have been at the very moment that the words, to save us all from Satan's power, would echo that I would realize that even the GPS could lead a man astray. And I would look to the left, just as I did in actuality, to behold another bridge with another underpass waiting for me on the left turn that the almighty GPS was telling me to take. Weary and downtrodden, I surveyed that bridge with its shadowy mouth of doom open wide, and I said, "Not today, Satan. Not today." I took the long way home, and despite running out of fuel and almost putting regular gas in a diesel truck, a blunder that would have rendered the whole clunker truly useless, I enjoyed every minute of it. Well, at least the part when it was over. And I almost forgot, I still had to pee. How could I forget such a thing? Maybe the devil is in the details, unleashing little subtle hells all around us when stuff goes wrong. Now, I don't want to get preachy here, but if you'll turn with me in your Bibles to... Just kidding. Whether or not you believe in an actual devil or a metaphorical one, an embodiment of chaos and calamity, does it really matter in the moment? When it all goes wrong, however minor or major or pentatonic it may feel in the moment? I want to get better at handling the situations like the one I just described to you, despite feeling like I'll never quite feel like an adult or like a person in control or like things really will be just fine. But I hope so. And I hope you do too. By the way, sorry for saying ass so much. Yeah, it really is hell when stuff goes wrong. But maybe that glow isn't from the flames of Hades, but the glimmer of that perfect light, that distant star of wonder and beauty. Guess I'll keep on keeping on, still westward leading, still proceeding to that perfect light, finding a strange, otherworldly joy in the minor and major discomforts of this freaking insane world, hoping and wishing for a sense of peace when the big and little things go wrong. Maybe that's the joy, not in the discomfort itself, but rather after the fact. The joy of being able to talk about dumb stories like these with ease because you're far enough removed from the annoying hell of it all. It's crazy, but I'm like 30 years old, and I'm just now learning how to be okay with inconvenience and setbacks and how to not let the little things bother me and not to be afraid of being uncomfortable. Ow. Hold on, this chair. Oh my God. Why is this chair so bad? This chair! Are you... Dude, seriously, this chair. Okay, no, forget it! Forget it!